Jim Quancy back again, talk to you a bit more about Forge and how it can power your digital transformation, leveraging your design and engineering data across the enterprise. And today's talk's about SaaS integration, so software as a service integration. This is connecting different platforms that are part of your digital transformation, such as ERP, CRM, office automation, collaboration systems together so data can flow across the enterprise. And we're going to show a number of different examples of connecting different software platforms together using Forge as the glue. Again, just a reminder what you can do with Forge if you happen to be seeing this video and haven't seen some of the other ones. Data visualization, digital twin, AR, VR, SaaS integration, which is what we're talking about today, and catalogs, configurators and design automation, and photo to 3D, turning photos into meshes. And with that, we're going to start with a classic SaaS integration, and it's about connecting an ERP system. One of our partners, Intelsys,
The
out
key
of
to
Europe,
successful
is an
project
expert in
delivery
this area.
is making sure you have the right
And I'm going to jump ahead to where kind of the connection between, in this case, AEC, BIM, and SAP happens. And I think right about here, we'll get a good view
comes into
on.
play. Intelsys.build links materials with the BIM model, and this provides your procurement and production teams with access to all of the design data from the BIM model. For example, whenever I select something from the list below, it is immediately highlighted also in the BIM model. We are using Autodesk Forge technology to provide this kind of visualization in almost all SAP applications. And you not only get context to the material about where and when the materials are used in the project, you can also access all of the BIM parameters related to the materials you are procuring or producing. And this gives an unprecedented level of detail and information that is vital for your procurement and production team to deliver projects successfully.
Okay, so that was a simple view of an SAP integration, an ERP integration, and we've had customers do similar integrations with Oracle, um, Microsoft Dynamics, NetSuite. It's kind of take your pick. For those of you who are SAP shops, whether it's SAP on the cloud or SAP on premise, SAP offers internet gateways to, in effect, make your SAP implementation something that can work with a cloud-based technology, such as Forge. Another example is connecting, in this case, a cost estimating application that one of our customers, J.E. Dunn, a $4 billion a year construction company, did. So they had a somewhat homebrew cost estimating, cost management application that actually built on top of SharePoint. J.E. Dunn's really a Microsoft shop. And they used Forge to bring the building information model information, which costing, scheduling, very much like we just saw in Intelsys's SAP integration, to allow them to have basically real time, near real time view of cost and schedule instead of what happens too frequently today with disconnected systems in that updates between the systems only happen every week, every few weeks, which has its downside in that you can get surprised. We're having this real-time information available to everybody who needs access to it is absolutely powerful stuff to control the bottom line, right? Cost and schedule. Um, Here's another example, and this is a commercial integration between a cost estimating system, Sigma, and in this case, Sigma is actually an on-prem cost estimating with BIM 360 and Revit building information models. And we'll run this, and I'll be quiet. You can kind of watch it. Clearly, if managing cost and schedule is important to you, this is pretty powerful stuff. So here we are in the Sigma S desktop. And from the desktop, from the on-prem app, it's going to connect to BIM 360 on the cloud using Forge to find the exact project and then the exact building information model that they want to update the cost estimate. And you'll see as this happens, it gives you the ability to update a cost estimate in, basically anytime you want with a few clicks. And there's a lot of information in a building information model. I mean, people who do this kind of thing today, it's pretty intimidating doing a cost estimate of a large project and getting really granular detail, which will be very important later as one keeps track of how are real costs matching up with the cost estimate. And the sooner the easier it is to kind of see any disconnects between the estimate and real cost, the more time one has to address it. Whether that's doing some cost-based kind of re-engineering, or spending a bit more time, working with suppliers and subcontractors. And here's that cost estimate that came from the on-prem app poured right back into BIM 360 cost management, where the project team can look at where costs are. And there's all kinds of things here: material costs, labor costs, all the types of things you do with cost estimating systems. Okay, another common integration we see is, Microsoft shops using SharePoint for their intranet and really as their hub, their IT hub for bringing information together for collaboration across the enterprise. I'm not going to go here now, but he's, let you know there's videos, classes, written material. Actually doing a very simple SharePoint integration is something that a web developer can do in a day or two. It's kind of not a big deal. It's all based on web standards. So whether you want to bring a drawing, a model, or you want to do some counting, you can make that connection between the BIM model and wherever the BIM model happens to be. Maybe it's in BIM 360, but maybe you use Box or Dropbox or Ignite or OneDrive or Google Drive or whatever or some on-prem file management system. It's quite straightforward to connect them using Forge with your other systems. Here's another one. Um, a little video here. We'll let this run. eSub creates what's in effect like an ERP system for subcontractors. So for typically smaller companies, who need to tightly manage their people, materials, projects, and they use Forge to tightly connect eSub with BIM 360. So BIM 360 may be what's used for the general contractor, but for some of the small subs, BIM 360 may not be the kind of the best tool for them. Okay, and now I'm going to look at a few more examples, and some of these are proof of concept, so you can see the kind of examples your people could use to kind of get started with some integrations, plus some more general integrations like Dell Boomi. Let me switch here. Yeah, here's my first one. I want you to notice this is a web page, and you see this is Google Drive. This is my personal Google Drive account, and I'm just going to go here, sign in, and we'll see how this goes here. Now, so I've used Forge on a web page and the Google Drive API, another REST API, just like the REST APIs with Forge, to get a list of all the files that I have. And there's all kinds of files here: Navisworks, Revit, Inventor, SolidWorks. I mean, it kind of runs the gamut. SketchUp, and what would be a good one? Pump base. Let me grab a Inventor part. Now, what's happening here is this file is being passed from Google Drive to Forge. Forge is then translating it into something we can view, measure, section. And here's the part, and I can do things like measurements. So maybe I want to measure the distance between, two bolt holes, or maybe I want to do some sectioning. And here's my sectioning. I don't like that section. I want, well, why don't I just rotate it, all right? And here's my section, and maybe I want to move that section up and down. So again, this is with Google information on Google Drive, but again, Ignite, Dropbox, OneDrive. Am I a big fan of Autodesk Drive and of BIM 360 and frankly, PlanGrid as a place to kind of manage your files? Yeah, absolutely. Um, but reality is you use what you use. You have company standards, you have enterprise standards, and Forge can connect those. Again, this these SaaS type of integrations. Let's go look at another one. We've got a building on the right here. You see this supplier, price, currency. This isn't from an ERP system. This is about doing like value analysis, cost analysis, could be scheduling. It's what many of our partners who do SaaS integrations, they kind of start with this code sample. So I can do things like, show me all the concrete. Now you can see pricing in the percent total of the cost. Is it concrete or steel? And I can reach into the model itself. And on this specific, concrete element, I can get information. And some of this information is out of the building information model. But as I go down here, you can see this database information. And note the price is 100. Because on the right here, I'm going to change the pricing. Because, $100 a kilogram for concrete? I don't think so. How about $1 a kilogram for concrete? And I'll update here. And you can see here the price is upgraded here. It's changed here. It's changed in the graphing. The cost analysis has moved concrete from one of the top costs to less than 1% of the cost. So everything's connected. ERP, costing, building information model in a very easy way. I'm going to go a bit farther because I did want to point out, with Forge in the viewer, there's lots and lots of possibilities here. So things like I'm going to use the transform tool to, kind of take the model apart. So maybe I want to look inside. I'm going to do some markup, and let me, mark up in 3D, some different parts of this design because maybe I want to help someone else um, understand because you have different people who you may have different views. You want to give different kinds of information. All right. Category. This is all mechanical equipment. I can also do things like let's do some visual reporting. The beauty is like this markup is just using the underlying 3JS. The Forge viewer has an underlying 3JS, and underneath that is WebGL, which gives you a lot of capabilities. Here, let me categorize things by, I don't know, system classification. And I've got a pie chart here. I don't know if you can tell here, it's actually colorized the model. And again, I can do things like, show me the return error, and then allow me to kind of dig in, and maybe I want the properties of a specific piece of ductwork. All easy to do, no big deal, kind of standard Forge integration. And lots of open source. All this visual reports kind of stuff, these are just open source. I don't know if it's JObjects or one of many other kind of online libraries of kind of JavaScript reporting. And there's other kinds of reporting. You can use, like from Microsoft, we've got a lot of folks using Microsoft reporting, like Power BI. Okay, so now I want to show you another kind of SaaS integration. In this case, it's work done by National Building Standards, NBS, part of the Royal Institute of British Architects in the UK, who set specification standards, specifications that you might have around buildings, around materials, around how you assemble things, how things should fit, how roofing is done, how footings are done, that kind of thing. And NBS is using Forge to connect building information models along with the specifications in a very fluid way. Sometimes this connection between specifications and the model is done in a Revit desktop. I mean, if it goes a ways back, it was PDF files or it was books, just lots and lots of books sitting on a shelf with all the standard specifications. But now this can all be done on a web page. NBS took all the building specifications several years back and put them all up on the cloud, where it becomes very easy to attach a specification to a specific item or a model. Um, and we'll see that here in a sec. So two different systems connected together, making for easy workflow, transparency. And I'm going to go in here, and you can go kind of either direction, like here on the specification area, driven or pre-stressed concrete. I click on it. I see the spec on the right. This is a specification that, again, historically was in a book and then in a PDF file, now on a website. But now you've got that connected with the model itself, so you can see exactly where it applies. And if you didn't notice, the other part of this is counting area, volume, instances. So all of a sudden, whether it's a cost thing or whether it's, hey, I need to go buy things and I'm at a warehouse and I want to pull my phone out and make sure I buy the right amount of the right things, right? Let me pick something else. Show me the timber framing system. And again, area, volume, instances, kind of very easy. And let me show all objects because I want to show you something that I think is really cool. I'm here in a web page and I'm going to pick an item where there is no specification on this piece of wood, right? No associated clause. So as a quantity surveyor, or someone who's not a Revit person but is an expert at materials and practices, I can right here associate with a clause. So I can go straight into the list of all the building standards published by NBS, pick the one I want and associate it. Now, I think it's important you understand what's happening here. We've got information in a database, standards, specifications, and we have information in the building information model. This associate is creating a link. For those of you who are technical, every entity in the CAD system has a unique ID. When Forge creates a model derivative, there's a unique ID for every entity, and this is a unique persistent ID, right? So you can use that as a key to make a connection to another data source, such as your specification system, such as your ERP system, such as your costing and scheduling system. Quite straightforward to use Forge to make these connections. The other thing I will say, for a lot of people, what happens for making these connections, it's not a manual thing. You actually start by running queries, and that's how most cost estimating integrations are done. You run a query. Show me all the walls, and I want to connect those walls to my cost estimating system. Show me the walls of various types, and let me connect them to the various costing information I have in my cost estimating system. So, depending on the type of systems you're connecting together, you may be able to run a query, a read-write query, make those connections, and those connections are now, permanent, persistent. And maybe depending on the system, you'll get 100% of the entities kind of matched up, of the fields matched up. Now, reality is, depending on what you're doing, you may have a set of queries that get 80, 90, 95% of these matches made between these different data sources. And depending on what you're doing, you may have to have a real person there who actually cleans up what might be a few percent of these matches between these different data systems. But I'll tell you, pretty straightforward stuff. Computer science person, web developer, they know how to go do this. Not a big deal. With that, another example of kind of SaaS, this is from one of our partners, Microdesk, who has connected Maximo and Revit using Forge. Maximo being the IBM system using for building maintenance and operations. And it's not only Maximo, maybe it's Tririga or whatever your favorite operations and maintenance system is. And I'll let this video, play out a bit, and just making the point. You've got this handoff between design and construction to maintenance and operations. And Microdesk here has actually built a set of tools to do that field mapping, to create those connections, those IDs between the building information model. Again, here's the Forge viewer and the entities and the fields and the maintenance information inside Maximo in a quite straightforward way. And something that, this field mapping, something that's done in a day, not a week, not months, not heavy development tools. Quite Microsoft has made it quite straightforward. Let me go to another kind of SaaS integration. I don't know if you're familiar with Dell Boomi. This is a company, Boomi, that Dell acquired for doing enterprise level integration. There's other companies, Jitterbit, Workato, which are PlanGrid organization uses that allows you to do integrations without being a software developer. And let me run this one.
Customers are asking Boomi to help them achieve all kinds of outcomes in their businesses.
Whatever you're trying to do, Dell Boomi will help you get it done faster and smarter. Boomi's cloud-based platform makes it very easy to get started. You just log in and go. There's no infrastructure to stand up, so you can avoid long setup, testing processes, and pricey implementation contracts. Our smart, user-friendly platform makes it easy for anyone to tackle any project, whether they're an expert developer or a citizen integrator. With Boomi, you can engage everywhere, connect everything, and run anywhere. Our platform links your systems, data, applications, processes, and people. Dell Boomi is one of the fastest growing cloud platforms in the market. More than 9,000 companies are betting their businesses on us.
Just to give a quick walkthrough of connecting to BIM 360 and syncing data from BIM 360 to an on-premise SAP ECC instance using Dell Boomi. This is a process example of connecting to BIM 360 using Dell Boomi. Just to review how we're connecting to BIM 360, we are using a Boomi connector with OAuth 2. This is using the three-legged token approach in the Forge portal. So we can retrieve these client ID and client secret values by logging into Forge and viewing the information for our.
Okay, that's probably enough of that. But again, to make the point, because Forge and the platforms that Autodesk is building with Forge, whether it's BIM 360, PlanGrid, Fusion 360, Autodesk Drive, because they're all based on web standards, and we have these REST APIs, it's relatively straightforward to hook things together in a relatively lightweight way. And I encourage people, when you think of SaaS integration, in the old days doing platform integration, it was hard. Client server, deep expertise, expensive consultants. Not so much anymore. Whether you're doing a simple drag and drop, the citizen integrator, or whether you've got a web developer who relatively quickly and easily can put all of this together. And with that, we'll keep moving ahead here. So the Forge web service APIs you've seen in use with these examples. Data management API, pushing files back and forth, passing files. Model derivative, translate any of 60 different file types into something you can view or you can extract data out of for counting, scheduling, linking to other platforms you have that are part of your digital transformation. Reaching into BIM 360, which is built on top of Forge. And in a few cases here, we were using the webhooks API, which is about notification. And webhooks is really a web industry, cloud industry standard notification system. So that when something changes, maybe a file is updated, somebody saves a file, somebody deletes a file, you want to know about it. You want to programmatically send a notification to another system, and that other system could be almost anything. Maybe it's file server to file server, or maybe you want to send a text message or an email, or maybe you Slack and you want to send a Slack message when something changes. And you can do that relatively straightforward using kind of industry standard web technologies, REST APIs, and the sort. Okay, if you haven't seen one of these videos before, here's my standard how do you get started. Step-by-step tutorial. Go to learnforge.autodesk.io. We have a tutorial here. Now, if you have a full stack web developer, take you a couple of hours to work through, this tutorial. But this tutorial in just a few hours takes you through a lot. Basic authentication, moving files around, integrating with BIM 360, embedding viewers in your website or mobile apps, using the design automation engines on the cloud. So pretty powerful stuff and pretty straightforward to get started. Now, don't be bashful asking for help. We are absolutely here to help. I have a team of engineers. They're here to help people. Use Forge. Forge.help@autodesk.com. You can email us directly. One of my engineers will reach right back to you directly. Now, maybe you have a very specific question already, or maybe you're just getting started and you want advice in getting started. You have an experience you want to create and you're looking for, hey, what's the best code samples? Are there any gotchas I need to worry about? So you can just reach out and say, hey, I want to talk. And I really encourage people when you're just getting started, let's talk about what you're thinking of doing, and get experts, on my team who've helped hundreds and hundreds of developers and several thousand at this point as a team, in building hundreds of code samples, be successful with Forge. Now, if you're shy or you're not too sure you want to talk, just do a Google search, your favorite learning tool. A lot of developers want to go look at code samples first. Just Google search Autodesk Forge GitHub. You'll find lots of examples. Maybe you want to see what the community has to say, not just what Jim has to say, because, can you trust the manufacturer? Hey, just do a Autodesk Forge Stack Overflow search. You'll find lots of Stack Overflow traffic. You can see what the community's up to. We have blogs. We've been running a Forge blog for several years now. Lots of how-tos and how to work around or work through specific issues and application areas. Maybe it's point clouds, maybe it's photo things, maybe it's you're dealing with very, very large models or very large numbers of models and you're looking for advice. We got all kinds of blog postings on how to go about some of that and point you to some of the best code samples. And then there's this, and you probably know this already. We have lots and lots of how-tos, recorded webinars up on YouTube, which no question the younger generation likes to start with YouTube. Not unusual. And of course, there's the formal docs, and there's pricing information, and there's formal tutorials, which you can find at forge.autodesk.com. And with that, finishing up this presentation on SaaS integration, connecting various platforms, which is what really digital transformation is all about. It's connecting these stacks of sources of truth, your ERP source of truth, your CRM source of truth, office automation, your collaboration, again, something like Slack or maybe it's Microsoft Teams. And for design and engineering information, Forge can be used to make your design and engineering information enterprise information, not just siloed away on engineering servers. And with that, have a great day and hope to see you at some of our at a few more of these Forge how-to videos.